The rumble of 18 wheels beneath you becomes a sort of white noise after a while. 10 years hauling freight across the Midwest will do that to a man. I've learned to find comfort in that constant vibration, that low hum that worms its way into your bones until it becomes part of your heartbeat. I've been driving the same Peterbilt 389 since 2015, crisscrossing Ohio and these surrounding states more times than I could possibly count. Most people think truck driving is boring. They picture endless stretches of highway, the same sights over and over. And sure, there's plenty of that. But what they don't realize is that the road has a way of showing you things that don't make any sense in the light of day. I've kept a journal of sorts over the years. It started as notes in my phone, little oddities I wanted to remember. A deer walking on 3 legs in perfect rhythm, a man standing by the road at 3 a.m. wearing a tuxedo, the inexplicable cold spots on I-70 westbound, even in July. Eventually, I started writing them down in a leather-bound notebook, something tangible. Maybe I thought that would make it easier to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe I thought it would help me sleep. It didn't. Take last November, for instance. I was running a load of steel coil out of Canton, headed south toward Cincinnati. It was about 2:30 in the morning when I hit that stretch of Route 33, just outside of Nelsonville. That road's always had a certain weight to it. The trees press in close, like they're leaning over the guardrails to whisper secrets at you. There's a section, no more than a quarter mile, where the air changes. It gets heavy, not cold exactly, just thick, like breathing through damp wool. I'd hit that patch before and chalked it up to morning fog or dew on the road, but that night was dry, clear, not a cloud in the sky. That's when I saw the first one, a shape in the road, tall, pale, not moving. I let off the gas and flicked on the high beams. It was a man, or at least it looked like a man. 7 feet tall, rail thin, wearing what looked like an old-fashioned suit, like something out of a 1930s funeral photo. His face was wrong, not disfigured, just blank. Smooth skin stretched across where eyes and a mouth should be. I honked. He didn't move. I veered slightly left, enough to avoid hitting him, but not so far as to cross into the other lane. He didn't flinch. As I passed him, my side mirror caught a glimpse of his head turning, slow, deliberate, following me as I drove past. I didn't look back again, but I did start recording. That's something I do now. Ever since the thing outside Athens, I mounted a dash cam and keep it running anytime I drive between midnight and dawn. Half the time it catches nothing but deer and fog. The other half? Well, it's the reason I can't bring myself to quit. I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Truckers aren't strangers to fatigue, and I've pushed myself harder than most. But that feeling, that thick air, that unnatural stillness kept happening. Only on that stretch of 33, always in the dead of night. Then the sighting started to change. A week later, I was coming back up north hauling an empty flatbed. Same area, same time, same heaviness in the air. But this time, there were 2 of them, standing side by side in the opposite lane, one slightly taller than the other, both with the same blank, waxy faces. They didn't move, not even when another truck passed going southbound, its headlights washing over them like they weren't even there. The other driver didn't brake, didn't honk, didn't even seem to see them. And when I passed them, their heads turned in unison. That was the first time I felt real fear. Not just the kind you get from being alone on the road at night. This was something primal. When I got home, I pulled the dash cam footage and froze the frame. There they were, 2 pale figures standing in the road, blurry but visible. I uploaded the clip to a private folder and didn't show it to anyone. I didn't want to become that guy, the one with Bigfoot sightings and blurry UFO videos. But I kept seeing them. Sometimes there were 3. Once there were 5. Always the same place. Always watching. And then they started getting closer. It was a Thursday night in December, and I was dead tired. I'd been running back-to-back loads from Dayton to Youngstown and back, trying to make up for some lost time. I wasn't even supposed to take the Nelsonville route, but a detour sign popped up last minute, routing traffic off I-70 due to an overturned tanker. I should have turned back, should have taken the long way around. But I didn't. That's the thing about truckers. We're creatures of habit and creatures of the clock. As I approached that familiar stretch, The road seemed darker than usual. My headlights didn't feel like they were cutting through the night. They just barely lit the pavement ahead, and then I saw them, 6 of them this time. Standing not in the road, but on the shoulder. Close, too close. I slowed down, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Something forced my foot off the accelerator. They didn't move, but one of them raised its hand, slowly, palm forward, like a wave or a warning. I kept my eyes forward, hands tight on the wheel. When I passed, my CB crackled. That CB hadn't worked in weeks. Static first, then a voice. Not a human voice. Something guttural, scraping, like someone dragging a shovel across gravel. I couldn't make out the words, but I understood them. Don't come back. The signal cut off. My heart was hammering in my chest, and for a brief second, I thought about pulling over, catching my breath. But I didn't. I kept driving. For 3 hours until I was halfway to Columbus, I didn't stop. When I finally did, I checked the dashcam footage. Blank. Nothing. No figures. No pale faces. Not even headlights. Just darkness. And 30 seconds of static. After that night in Nelsonville, I avoided Route 33 like the plague. It added hours to my trips, and dispatch wasn't happy, but I didn't care. They can yell at me all they want. I wasn't about to tempt whatever was out there again. But avoidance only works for so long on the road. You run enough miles in Ohio, and sooner or later, something's going to circle back to you. It was a little after 3 a.m., mid-January. I was deadheading up I-71, headed for a pickup in Medina. Snow was falling soft and steady, just enough to coat the road in a white film that made everything look like a dream. You know the kind, quiet, slow, and just strange enough to feel like you're not entirely awake. I had my thermos of burnt coffee, the radio playing low, some AM station out of Cleveland barely holding signal. It was all static and the occasional burst of old gospel music. I didn't mind. After the things I'd seen, silence unnerved me more than white noise ever could. Somewhere north of Mansfield, I caught movement in the ditch. Now animals dart across the road all the time. Coyotes, deer, even the occasional black bear. I've seen them all. But this thing, it wasn't moving like any animal I know. It crawled, not ran, not hopped. Crawled. I slowed a little, squinting through the snow and the blur of my wipers. The shape was low, hunched, like a man on all fours but wrong. Too long. Limbs bending where they shouldn't. It dragged itself out of the ditch slowly, then stopped at the edge of the asphalt, just inside my high beams. And for the second time that month, I felt it. That pressure, that unnatural weight in the air. The thing turned toward me, and I swear, even through the storm and snow, I saw its eyes. Or where its eyes should have been. 2 black hollows, leaking something darker than shadow. I swerved into the left lane, tires biting into the icy road. As I passed it, the radio went dead. No static, no sound, just silence. That was worse than the voice from Nelsonville. Silence meant something else was listening. I checked the mirrors, nothing behind me, just white snow and empty highway. Then something tapped the side of the truck, not hard, not like a branch or a rock kicked up from the road. This was rhythmic, deliberate, like knuckles on steel. Knock, knock, knock. I looked over at the passenger window. Nothing, but the knocking continued. From behind the sleeper cab, I flicked on the dome light, grabbed the flashlight I kept clipped under the dash. Still driving, still holding the wheel, I angled it back toward the small crawl space where I kept my duffel and logbooks. Empty. Still the tapping persisted. Knock, knock, knock. Then it stopped. I didn't slow down again until I hit the lights of Ashland. Pulled into the first rest stop I could find. Shut the truck off, sat in the driver's seat with both hands still on the wheel like I was afraid to move, and then I heard the breathing. Not mine. Not the wind outside. It was coming from inside the sleeper, ragged, wet. I turned, flashlight shaking in my hand, and shined it toward the bunk. Still nothing. But the sound was there. Just out of sight. As if something was breathing through the fabric of reality itself. Close enough to hear, too far to see. I climbed out of the truck. Didn't even shut the door. I just stood in the freezing wind, the snow soaking my flannel, staring at my rig. The Peterbilt loomed there like a metal tomb. And when I looked up toward the sleeper window just for a second, I thought I saw something move. A shape. A face. Watching. When I finally mustered the guts to get back in, the breathing was gone. The truck was cold. Too cold. I cranked the heater, fired her back up, and sat there, gripping the wheel like a lifeline. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even shut my eyes. That morning, I called a mechanic buddy of mine and had him tear the truck apart. Sensors, vents, insulation, everything. He found something. A smear of something dark behind the passenger seat. Thick, sticky. Smelled like rot. He said maybe a rodent got in and died. But when he tried to clean it up, the rag disintegrated in his hand. Not burned, not torn. Just vanished. He asked if I was hauling anything weird lately. I told him no. But that wasn't true. 2 nights before the Nelsonville incident, I'd picked up an unmarked container outside a warehouse in Lima. Paid in cash. No paperwork. Just coordinates and a time. It was sealed. Tight. The guy who loaded it didn't say a word. He didn't have to. I could feel the weight of it before I even backed the trailer up. Like something inside that box didn't want to be moved. I delivered it to a depot in Athens. Nobody signed for it. They just opened the bay doors, waved me in, then waved me out. That was it. Since then, everything's been wrong. Lights flicker, the radio crackles even when it's off. My CB sometimes speaks in whispers, not words, just breath. And always that presence, like I'm never driving alone. I've been keeping the dash cam on full time now, front, side, and cabin. But somehow, the footage goes blank when the weird stuff happens. Even the hard drive skips. Like something doesn't want to be recorded. I've started marking places, mile markers, exit signs, spots where the cold hits, where the air gets thick, where the sky changes color just for a second. There's a pattern forming. Whatever this is, it's not random. It's following the roads, like it's moving across Ohio, how creeping through the asphalt veins of this state. Town by town, route by route, and I'm starting to think I'm not the only one who's seen it. Last week at a rest stop outside Toledo, I met another driver, older guy, looked like he'd been sleeping in his rig for a decade, eyes sunken, hands shaking even as he lit a cigarette. He looked at my rig, then at me and asked, "You seen the watchers?" I didn't answer right away. Didn't have to. He nodded. "They see you now," he said. "Once they do, they don't stop. Not till you're empty." "Empty?" I asked. He didn't explain. Just climbed back into his truck and drove off. Didn't even stop for fuel. I haven't seen him since. But I know I will. They'll bring him back. Just like they always do. There's a stretch of highway on I-70 between Springfield and Dayton that doesn't show up quite right on GPS. At least not mine. The mileage shifts. Exit numbers don't add up. Some nights it's just a bit off, a glitch, maybe a quirk in the system. But other nights, especially after 2 a.m., that stretch becomes something else entirely. We call it the Black Mile. Most drivers don't even know it by name. They just know something feels wrong about it. Tires vibrate a little harder. The radio crackles more than usual. Time slips. You swear it took 5 minutes to pass a sign, but it's been 20. You blink, and somehow the sky is darker, even if it's the same hour. It was mid-February when I hit it again. I was coming westbound, dead tired from back-to-back hauls. Snowbanks lined the shoulder like pale sentinels. I passed mile marker 52, then 51, except 51 looked off. The numbers were scratched, gouged, like someone had dug into the metal with fingernails. Deep ones. I slowed, not because I meant to, because my foot just sort of eased up. The radio died. The road grew impossibly quiet. That's when I noticed it. There were no taillights ahead and no headlights behind. Just me, alone. I looked down at the clock on the dash. 2:33 a.m. Then it blinked once and changed to 2:34. Then blinked again. 2:37s. Seconds ticking like seconds don't, like time itself was rushing forward. Then it stopped. 2 a.m. I checked my phone. Same thing. GPS was gone, just a spinning circle, no position found. I hit the brakes lightly, not wanting to stop, just trying to feel the road beneath me again. It felt like driving through molasses. My rig didn't slow like it should. It drifted, slow and heavy, like I was underwater, and then the fog rolled in. Thick, instant, not like fog that builds gradually. It was just there, blinding. Pressed tight against the glass like hands trying to get in. The headlights cut into it barely a foot ahead. And right then, standing in the beam, was a woman in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded, tires screaming. I swerved hard, veering into the shoulder, praying I didn't jackknife. But there was no impact. Nothing. I came to a dead stop, heart pounding, and jumped out of the cab. Nothing on the road, just fog and silence. And then I heard it, crying, soft, desperate, not from ahead of the truck, from behind me. I turned, and she was there, standing 20 feet from my trailer, barefoot in the snow, wearing a thin white dress soaked to her knees, black hair matted across her face. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there shivering. I stepped forward. Hey, you okay? No answer. I took another step, and that's when her head snapped up. Her face was wrong, not grotesque, not mutilated, just empty, like the others. No eyes, no mouth, only skin. And from where her mouth should have been, I heard it again. That static, like broken radio signals crammed into a human throat. I ran, back into the cab, slamming the door, locking it, throwing her into gear. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. I felt her watching. The fog didn't lift for another 10 miles. When it finally did, I checked the GPS. I was just outside Inglewood. But here's the thing. I'd passed no exits, no intersections, no mile markers, nothing. I drove 15 miles, and there was no road behind me, only the black mile. The next morning, I met up with a guy I know, a retired driver named Lenny. He used to run the same routes I do before he saw too much, as he put it. We met at a truck stop off I-675 in the booth farthest from the windows. I told him about the fog, the woman, the time skipping. He didn't look surprised. He just nodded and said, "She's not the worst thing you'll see." That chilled me more than the fog ever could. According to Lenny, that part of I-70 has always been cursed. Ever since a derailment in the 1950s when a train carrying military equipment crashed just south of the highway. They said it was a mechanical failure. But rumors floated around, strange cargo, covered crates, military lockdowns. Half the town disappeared within a year, and after that people started seeing things on the road, figures standing still, fog that came from nowhere, roads that looped in on themselves, time that bent, reality that thinned. Lenny had his own story. Said he once picked up a hitchhiker in that area, a girl in a sundress, mid-July. She didn't speak the whole ride, just pointed. He dropped her off at an overpass near West Jefferson. She vanished before she reached the end of the bridge. His dash cam caught nothing, just a whisper on the audio. "Don't stop next time." I asked Lenny why no one talks about this stuff. Why the companies, the state troopers, the road crews just let it all happen. He leaned in close. Because they know, and they're too scared to admit it. That night, I dreamed about the woman in the road, but this time, I didn't swerve. I hit her. There was a sound like metal tearing, a scream that turned into a radio signal, and I woke up sweating, the sound of knocking on my cab window still echoing in my ears. When I checked the outside in the morning, there were handprints, small, pale, dozens of them, trailing from the bumper to the sleeper. The road is changing. It's not just sightings anymore. It's following me, into towns, into stops, into my dreams. And now, I've started seeing exit signs that don't exist. I'll blink, and they're there. A rusted green sign, Exit 0, Ashtree. No highway has an Exit 0. No map shows an Ashtree. But I've seen that sign 3 times now, and each time it stays in view a little longer. Each time, I feel like it's inviting me, calling me. Next time, I might not be able to resist. I swore I wasn't going to take it. No matter how many times I saw that sign, Exit 0, Ashtree, I promised myself I'd stay on the highway. I'd keep driving, keep my eyes forward, foot steady, hands on the wheel. Because some exits, they don't lead anywhere you want to go. But promises are hard to keep when you're bone tired, sleep deprived, and reality keeps bleeding at the edges. It happened around 4 a.m. on US 35, just outside Chillicothe. I was hauling empty crates back north, windows cracked to keep me alert. I'd passed that long, quiet stretch near the correctional facility where the road goes dark, no lights, no signs, and there it was again. Exit 0, green sign, rusted bolts, slanted just a little to the left like it didn't belong. And beneath it, a smaller sign, welcome home. This time, I didn't pass it. I don't remember turning the wheel. I don't remember signaling. I just remember the sudden curve, the tires gliding effortlessly onto a ramp that wasn't there a second ago. The exit was narrow, barely wide enough for a semi. Trees leaned in from both sides, skeletal branches scraping the trailer. There were no lights, no reflectors, just a 2-lane road cutting through what looked like an abandoned forest. The GPS died instantly. My radio went to static. The headlights barely cut through the fog, creeping along the road like something alive. And then the road split. One lane led left, the other right. No signs, no indicators, just dirt and shadows. I stopped the truck, rolled down the window, listened. From the left came silence, from the right, humming, faint, like a music box. I turned right. The road narrowed again, twisting until it barely fit the Peterbilt. Branches snapped against the sides, mirrors scraped bark. I slowed to a crawl, every instinct screaming to back out, to turn around. But I kept going. And then just like that, the trees opened up. I rolled into a small town square, but it wasn't on any map I'd ever seen. It wasn't on Earth as far as I could tell. The buildings were old, real old, colonial maybe, but wrong. Windows too narrow, doors too tall. A flickering street lamp cast sickly yellow light over cracked cobblestones. A church sat at the center, its steeple twisted like it had melted under heat that left no fire. There were no people, just mannequins, hundreds of them, lining the sidewalks, sitting on benches, standing at corners. Some wore old-timey clothes. Others looked like truckers. One even wore a D vest with my company's logo. They were all staring at the church. I parked in the middle of the square, engine idling low. I didn't want to step out, but something compelled me. That humming again, louder now, coming from the church. I left the cab running, grabbed the tire iron, and walked toward the doors. They opened before I touched them. Inside, the pews were filled. More mannequins, all facing forward, heads tilted upward. At the pulpit stood something tall, shrouded, its face hidden by an old trucker's cap in a veil of static. Yes, static. Like it was made of white noise, barely holding form. It twitched and buzzed with a sound like broken radios and idling engines. And in front of it, laid out on the altar, was a logbook. My logbook, the one I kept in the sleeper. It was open to a page that didn't exist, a route I'd never driven, one that ended in Ashtree. As I approached, the static figure turned. Its head tilted, just like the mannequins. And in a voice like rust scraping on steel, it whispered, "Finish the route." The doors slammed shut behind me. All the mannequins stood at once. Not fast, not jerky, just wrong, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. I ran, shoved through the doors, bolted back to the truck, nearly dropped the iron. The engine coughed when I turned the key once, twice, then roared to life. I didn't look back. Didn't care if I took out mailboxes or benches or mannequins. I drove straight until the trees broke and the highway returned. No ramp, no sign, no exit 0, just US 35 again like nothing had happened. Only now, the logbook in the sleeper, it had a new page, written in my own handwriting, a date, a time, a destination. Ashtree Depot, 04:23:33 a.m. The page won't rip, the ink won't smear, and when I try to throw it away, it comes back, always. Stranger still, I passed another driver 2 nights later, a young woman out of Columbus. We ended up at the same pilot, started swapping stories. She looked tired, paranoid. Her eyes kept darting to the corners of the truck stop like she expected someone to be watching. When I mentioned the mannequins, she went pale, said she saw them too. But they weren't mannequins in her version. They were people, frozen, motionless, all wearing her face. The road is unraveling. Whatever Ashtree is, it's not a place. It's a destination, a point on the map of something older, something buried in the veins of the interstate system, or like a cancer slowly waking up. And now it wants me to deliver something. I don't know what happens if I do, but I'm more afraid of what happens if I don't. I first heard it outside Dayton near the New Lebanon bypass. I'd stopped at a rest area just to piss, grab a Coke, stretch my legs. It was quiet, too quiet for that stretch of road. No other trucks, no lights but mine, fog curling through the trees like fingers. That's when I heard it. Thump, not from outside, from the trailer. One clean, deliberate thump, like a fist on metal, then silence. I knew the trailer was empty, had been since Pickerington. I did a sweep, locked it myself, nothing inside but tire air and a few flecks of gravel. But that sound, it wasn't nothing. I circled the rig, checked the padlock, still sealed. I pressed my ear to the side. Nothing, not even the wind. Then thump, thump, thump. I backed away fast. Whatever it wasn't trying to break out. It was knocking, in rhythm, like it was trying to speak. I didn't open it. I'm not an idiot. I've been on the road long enough to know when something doesn't belong. When the silence stretches too long, when the dark feels thicker than it should. I got in the cab and drove. Fast. No music, no GPS, just tires and the cold hum of an empty road stretching endlessly forward. But the knocking didn't stop. Every few miles. Thump! Like it wanted to remind me it was still there. I reached for the CB, flipped channels until I found static that wasn't pure noise. Finally caught a voice. "Breaker, you got ears on, friend?" I responded, "I hear you. You driving out past Dayton?" "Yeah, headed east." Pause. "Pull over at mile 213. There's a diner there, old one, still safe." Click, dead air, no name, no call sign, but something in that voice, something in the way he said still safe, made me listen. The diner was there, old, red neon, half burned out. Looked like it hadn't served a meal since 1983. But a truck was parked out front, big Kenworth, black, chrome dulled by age. I pulled beside it and killed the engine. Inside, the lights were dim. One man sat at the counter. He didn't turn around when I entered. He just said, "You got something in your trailer that ain't yours." I froze. "How do you know that?" He sipped coffee, still didn't look at me. "Because we all hauled it, sooner or later." Now he turned. His face was rough, old scars, missing an eye, skin like tree bark. But his remaining eye was sharp, a pale gray, almost silver. "They mark you with the exit," he said. "That's how it starts. You see it. You hear the town. The cargo shows up next." I sat 2 stools away. My hands were still shaking. "What's in there?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached under the counter and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He unrolled it slowly. Inside was an old, rusted manifest book. Each page listed a different driver. Date, time, route, destination, Ashtree. Always Ashtree. Some names were crossed out. Others were circled in red. He flipped to the next page, blank except for one name scrawled at the top. Mine. "3 more nights," he said. "You've got 3 more nights until the final delivery." "What if I don't make it?" His eye twitched. "Then it'll come to you. Through the mirrors, through the cracks in the sky, through the dreams. Once you're marked, you can't outrun it." Outside, the wind picked up. The knocking started again, only louder now, more urgent. Thump, thump, thump. The man rose and grabbed my arm. His grip was ice. "Don't open it," he hissed. "No matter what you hear, no matter what it sounds like, it'll lie, it'll beg, it'll use their voices." He leaned in close. "It remembers who you lost." Then he let go and walked out the back door, vanishing into the dark. Back in the truck, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I heard it again. But it wasn't a knock. It was my brother's voice. "Open up, man. It's cold in here." He's been dead 10 years, rolled his rig off a cliff in Arkansas. Body burned so bad we buried an urn. But it was his voice, his laugh, his way of saying my name. "You leaving me out here, Johnny? That ain't right." I almost opened it. Almost. But then I saw the side mirror. It was bleeding. Slow black liquid dripping down the glass like it was crying oil. I threw the truck into gear and drove. Didn't stop until the sun came up. It's been 2 nights since then. The knocking continues. The voices get clearer. Now it's not just my brother. It's my mother, my daughter, a friend I lost in a wreck in '06. They're all in there, begging to be let out. And each time I check the logbook, another page fills in, on its own, always with the same line at the bottom. Final stop, Ashtree Depot, 0420 to 3:33 a.m. That's 6 days from now. I don't know what's in that trailer, but it knows me. It knows my grief. It knows how to wear the faces of the dead. And worst of all, it knows I'm going to deliver it. I've been driving for hours, eyes dry, fingers locked on the wheel. Somewhere between Columbus and Zanesville, the sun dipped behind the clouds and never came back. Darkness crept in, thick and slow, swallowing the trees, the road, everything. I kept checking the mirrors, not for cars, for them. It started with my brother's face again, then my daughter, then faces I didn't recognize at all, blank-eyed truckers with mouths open like they were screaming, but no sound came through. They pressed against the glass like it was a window instead of a reflection. And behind them was Ashtree. I swear to God, I saw the town, just for a second, not in front of me, not on the GPS, but in the mirrors. A main street of twisted buildings, a clock tower frozen at 3:33, a depot the color of rotting teeth. And the mannequins, oh Christ, the mannequins, lining the sidewalks like soldiers, arms raised in silent welcome, and one of them waved. At me. I slammed on the brakes hard, pulled over just past mile marker 237, stepped out onto the shoulder, breathing fast. The night was cold, bitter, windless. The mirror still shimmered. Then, not human, not animal, something in between. It came from the trailer, long, guttural, wet. Then a voice, clear as a bell. "We're here, Johnny. You brought us back." I stepped around the trailer, half expecting the padlock to be broken. It wasn't. Still sealed, still cold to the touch. But the trailer was bulging, like something inside was pushing outward, breathing against the walls. Metal groaned under strain, and for a second I saw the side of the trailer ripple like water. I backed off, fast, climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, and then I saw her. She was standing in the middle of the highway, a girl maybe 9 or 10, pale skin, no shoes, wearing a white dress soaked to the knees in black sludge. She raised her hand and pointed, not at the truck, at me, straight through the windshield, and her mouth moved. I couldn't hear the words, but I could feel them. "You were supposed to save me." My chest clenched, like something reached in and twisted my heart, because I recognized her, not from memory, but from a dream I had years ago. A dream where I'd driven through a fog bank near the West Virginia line and seen a burning school bus in a ditch. Only in the dream I'd stopped, pulled kids out, saved lives. But that never happened, because that bus wasn't real. Or at least that's what I told myself. But now this girl, she was looking at me like I failed her. And maybe I did. Maybe all the cargo in that trailer, every soul, every whisper, every echo, they're the ones we leave behind, the ones we pretend never existed. I snapped out of it when my CB crackled again. "Breaker, this is Gravedigger. You still breathing, Johnny?" I grabbed the mic, voice shaking. "Yeah, barely." "They're getting inside, aren't they?" I didn't answer. "Listen to me, there's a way station up ahead. Abandoned. Mile 244. Pull in. They can't follow you over threshold lines. Not yet." "What's Gravedigger mean?" "Just a handle." "Why are you helping me?" "Because no one helped me." Dead air. The way station was there, half buried in kudzu and moss. Looked like it'd been closed since the 70s. Rusted gates, cracked pavement, one flickering overhead light. But as soon as I pulled in, the trailer stopped shaking. The voices went quiet. And the mirrors, just reflections. No ghosts, no faces, just me. Alone. I parked, sat in the silence, and for the first time in days, I slept. I dreamed I was standing in the middle of the road, surrounded by mannequins. But they weren't plastic. They were flesh. Each one had no face, just blank, smooth skin where mouths and eyes should be. Except one. It had my face, and it leaned in and whispered, "You're the final delivery, Johnny." I woke to find the logbook open on the dash. Another entry written in that same spidery handwriting. No date this time, just coordinates. 39.76 N, 82.518 Screes. I looked it up. It's not a town, it's not even on the map. Just a patch of woods off a forgotten service road near Buckeye Lake. But next to the core is one word, unload. And I know what it means now. It's not the cargo I'm delivering. It's me. I sat at the edge of the way station for 3 hours, staring at those coordinates like they were poison. Like if I looked long enough, I'd suddenly remember some other obligation, some other delivery, any excuse to head literally anywhere else. But the trailer wouldn't move. Not until I turned onto that service road. I tried, put her in gear, rolled forward toward the ramp. The engine sputtered, brakes locked, cab lights flickered out. It was like trying to move a dead body. Something didn't want to go anywhere else. But the second I turned the wheel toward the GPS-marked path, the truck purred, like it was eager. The road wasn't paved, just cracked gravel, weeds, and ancient tire tracks. Trees hung low, branches scraping the trailer's roof, stirring up a thin mist that smelled like mold and burnt oil. Every few hundred feet, I'd see crosses nailed to the trees, old, weather-worn. Some had names, some had numbers. One read Manifest number 17, too early. Another, Manifest 22, opened it. The last one before the clearing simply said Manifest number 23, still driving. I didn't have a number yet, but I knew I was next. The coordinates led to a clearing shaped like a spiral. The grass was dead. The trees all bent outward, like they were afraid of whatever lived at the center. There were tire tracks in the dirt, lots of them, deep grooves, some fresher than others. But no trucks, no buildings, just a pit. A massive loading dock made of stone and rusted iron, surrounded by standing mannequins. They weren't like before, they were melting. Some missing arms, others half embedded in the earth like roots. And all of them were staring at the trailer, waiting. I climbed down. The air felt thick, greasy, like something was breathing through me instead of around me. I unlocked the trailer. The padlock clicked, rust flaking off like dead skin. And inside was darkness. Not shadows, not low light, but a total, swallowing absence, like the trailer opened into a space where light didn't belong. Then something moved. It wasn't a shape, not exactly, more like a shifting impression, like dozens of bodies pressing against a rubber sheet. I saw hands, faces, 1,000 eyes staring back, blinking in unnatural rhythms. Voices poured out, all speaking in unison, but not words. Sounds, birth cries, screams, laughter. I dropped the crowbar, stumbled back. The spiral beneath me began to glow faintly red. The pit opened wider, and a shape started to crawl out. Long limbs, pale skin, joints bending wrong. No eyes, just raw sockets filled with writhing threads. It reached for me, and then the CB crackled. Don't engage. Get back in the cab. It was Gravedigger again. They're testing you. Don't break the seal. I stared at the horror slithering from my trailer, and somehow, I turned and ran. Climbed back into the truck and slammed the door. But I couldn't drive. Not yet. Because the logbook had flipped again. This time it wasn't coordinates. It was a list of names. All of them mine. All of them scratched out, except the last one. Underlined twice in red. Manifest number 24 ready. The truck moved on its own. Gears shifted, wheels turned, and we rolled slowly, inexorably down into the pit. The farther we descended, the less the world made sense. The CB started picking up screams. Emergency dispatch calls from 1992. A child reciting nursery rhymes backwards. My own voice reading names I'd never said. The mirrors shattered. The windows fogged from the inside. And the smell, oh God, the smell. It was meat and grief and burnt rubber, like a funeral that never ended. Outside the cab, things moved alongside us. Twisted people, stitched together from mannequin parts and flesh. Some wore hats. Some wore vests. One wore my face. It knocked gently on the glass. We all delivered, Johnny. Now it's your turn. At the bottom of the pit was a dock, a real one, half metal, half bone. A figure waited there, dressed like a dispatcher, clipboard, headset, safety vest, except its arms were too long and its eyes were upside down. Its voice sounded like static and weeping. Manifest number 24, cargo confirmed. Please step out and sign. I didn't move. If you refuse, we will unload it manually, and that will not be clean. My hand moved against my will, reached for the door, touched the handle, but before I could pull it, something changed, a glint on the dashboard. The locket. My daughter's. I'd kept it there for 10 years. When I saw it, something broke free inside me. I grabbed the wheel, yanked it hard. The truck screamed in protest. Metal cracked. The dock shattered. And somehow, I don't know how, I tore the rig back up the spiral, tires spitting dirt and blood, engine roaring like a dying god. I didn't stop, didn't breathe, just drove. I don't know how long it took, but eventually I broke through the mist, and the world was normal again. Trees, highway, US 40 blinking into existence like a glitch correcting itself. I didn't look in the trailer, didn't check the mirrors. I just drove until I found a station with working lights and a crowd of people. I parked, sat on the curb, and cried. That was 2 nights ago. I haven't checked the trailer since, but every morning the logbook updates. And now, instead of a route, it just says, 1 delivery left, yourself. After I escaped the spiral pit, I swore I'd quit. I parked the truck, left the keys, walked until my boots split open and my legs screamed. Slept in a barn behind a gas station off US 35. Figured I'd start over somewhere, anywhere. But the road doesn't let go that easy, not when you're on the manifest. The clipboard was gone, but the logbook stayed. I burned it, watched it curl into ash, and the next morning it was back, sitting on the motel nightstand, clean, fresh. A single line written in red. Deliverance begins at 3:33 a.m. And like a fool, I checked the time, 3:32. 1 minute later, the wall started to hum. Not shake, hum. Like a tuning fork vibrating deep in my chest. I heard engines, voices, CB chatter, my own voice, speaking things I'd never said. Breaker, 24 inbound with the ache of all things unsaid. 10-4, Johnny. Let the dead hear their names tonight. Then the room twisted, not spun, twisted. Angles warped, shadows peeled from corners, and where the bathroom door used to be was a road, cracked blacktop, pale white lines, stretching out into a void of headlights and stars that didn't blink. I heard my truck idling, even though I'd left it 40 miles behind. And I felt it again, that pull, like the road had teeth, and it was biting down. I ran, out the front door, through the gravel into the field behind the motel, and there it was, my truck, sitting under the moon like it had never left, logbook on the dash, trailer hitched and humming like a living thing, and the CB radio it was on, channel 19, static. Then Johnny, it was a woman's voice, soft, warm. I froze. You left us in the pit, Johnny, but we climbed out, and now we ride with you. The cab light flicked on. In the passenger seat, a figure formed from the mist. My daughter, or something wearing her. Too still, too calm. She smiled. Don't fight it, Daddy. The road remembers everything. Then she opened her mouth and let out a horn blast so loud it cracked the windshield. I blacked out. Woke up somewhere in Kentucky, 300 miles away, rolling 65 miles per hour. I was driving, hands on the wheel, eyes wide open. I pulled over, threw up on the gravel, cried like a child, and when I turned around, the trailer door was open. Not flapping, just waiting. Inside was a small diner, Formica counters, checkered floor, rain falling on the windows that didn't exist, and sitting in a booth? Every face I'd passed on the road over the years, hitchhikers I ignored, drivers I lost in storms, state troopers flagged in obituaries. One by one they turned to look at me, and in unison they said, "Your final stop is Ashtree. You owe the route of town. Deliver it." I slammed the doors shut, chained them, but the voices kept coming, through the CB, through the speakers, through my dreams. And with every mile I drove, the towns I passed changed. Gas stations were missing, buildings boarded up that weren't before. Once I stopped in a familiar place for fuel, and the sign had a new name, Ashtree, population approaching. That's when I understood. I wasn't just driving to Ashtree. I was bringing Ashtree with me, delivering it, one forgotten mile at a time. I didn't know what I expected to find in Ashtree. Maybe some old ghost town covered in moss and regret. Maybe a myth with boarded up windows and fading signs. What I found instead was a functioning city, on the surface at least. It wasn't on any map. There were no signs. But I took the right turns, followed the voices on the CB, passed mile markers that didn't exist last week, and suddenly I was pulling into a town like it had always been there. Neat rows of buildings, streetlights humming with old electricity, people walking on sidewalks, except they weren't people. Not really. Their movements were too smooth, too perfect. Each one exactly the same height, the same posture. They smiled too long, blinked too slow. And their eyes, when they met mine, didn't hold recognition. They held expectation, like I'd finally arrived, like I was late. I drove slowly through the main street, passing a diner with no customers, a gas station with pumps that bled rust, and a fire station that hadn't seen a flame in decades. And at the center of it all, the Ashtree Depot. It looked like it had been built from pieces of every other depot I'd ever seen. Rusted steel siding, green fiberglass panels, a weather vane with too many arrows. Its front doors were open wide, inviting, waiting. The lot outside was packed with trucks, at least 100, all different makes and models, parked in a perfect spiral. I saw my brother's rig, still covered in ash, still bearing the scorch marks from the crash he never came home from. And next to it, an open space, just big enough for my truck. I pulled in, parked, and the second I cut the engine, the air changed. No wind, no insects, just silence. And then a sound, like metal sliding against flesh. I stepped out, and they were waiting for me. They stood in a line outside the depot, maybe 30 of them, all in dispatcher uniforms, clipboards, lanyards. Their faces were masks, literal masks, some molded in plastic, some sewn from skin. But under those masks, I saw the truth. Hollowed out people, voices that had once called out over CB radio, guiding, warning, cursing, begging, now reduced to clipboard puppets. One step forward, same one from the spiral pit, the one who told me to sign. Manifest number 24, it said, voice rattling like loose change. You are hereby confirmed for final delivery. I didn't move. It took a step closer. Your cargo has matured. Another step. Would you like to see? I shook my head. It tilted its own. Too late. The trailer doors opened on their own, and for the first time I saw what I'd been carrying. It wasn't a thing. It was a place. The inside of the trailer was no longer metal walls. It was streets, buildings, forests of mannequins, crumbling churches, graveyards where the tombstones had my name over and over, etched in different dates and styles, and floating above it all, a mirror, the size of a billboard, hanging in nothingness. I looked into it, and I saw every version of myself I'd left behind, every life I didn't save, every place I didn't stop, every person I couldn't help. Every time I turned up the radio to drown out the screams, they were all me. And they were waiting. The dispatcher held out the clipboard, one line, signed to deliver. I took the pen, and for a moment, I considered it. Maybe I deserved this. Maybe we all do in some way. But then I remembered her voice. My daughter. The real one. The one who used to say, "Drive safe, Daddy," every time I hit the road. She wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want me to become another ghost on the highway. So I dropped the pen and I ran. The depot howled, not with sound, but with pressure. Air folded in on itself. The sky rippled like heat. The trucks all turned inward, headlights flaring to life. The spiral was collapsing. The whole town Ashtree was caving into the trailer, like it was the seed and now the bloom had wilted. I made it back to the cab, turned the key. The truck didn't start. I hit it again, nothing. But the mirrors lit up, all of them. And for the first time, instead of faces, I saw a road, a new one, leading out, leading home. I whispered thank you to no one and everyone, and the truck roared to life. I didn't look back. I don't know how I made it out, but I did. I woke up parked in an old truck stop outside Chillicothe. No signal, no logbook, no voices, and the trailer? Gone. Just the cab, alone. But there was one thing waiting for me in the passenger seat, the clipboard, with a new line written at the bottom, Manifest number 25, in transit. It's been a week. 7 days since Ashtree disappeared in my rear view. 7 days since the trailer vanished and left me sitting in a truck stop like none of it ever happened. No one believes me. Not the waitress who poured my coffee. Not the sheriff who knocked on the cab window. Not even the trucker who offered me a smoke and said I looked like I'd seen the road eat a man. Maybe he was right. Maybe it did. I still have the clipboard. It sits on the passenger seat like a co-pilot with a quiet agenda. The names on the manifest keep changing. One line every morning. Sometimes a name I recognize from an obituary. Sometimes a stranger. Sometimes mine. It fades in and out, taunting me. A delivery still pending. I tried walking away, left the truck in Kansas, checked into a motel under a fake name, tossed my phone in a lake, burned my CB. It didn't matter. Every morning the truck was back, in the parking lot, idling, keys in the ignition, and the clipboard on the dash. No explanation, no escape, and the logbook, the one I'd sworn was gone, was back too. One page, one sentence, written in that same sharp handwriting. You are the road now. The first time I picked up the CB again, it hissed to life like it had been waiting. Static, feedback. Then, Breaker 19, we're all out here, Johnny. Still driving, still delivering. I didn't respond, not right away. But after an hour, I flipped it on again. Who am I delivering to? Same place we all go. End of the line. Ashtree's gone, but the route is forever. You just drive until you don't recognize the world anymore. And then you drop off what's left of yourself. I started seeing things again. Not ghosts this time. Other drivers, on roads that don't exist, passing me at impossible speeds. Sometimes they flash their lights. Sometimes they just disappear. Once I passed a rig with no driver at all. The cab was full of water. Fish swimming in and out of the steering wheel. And on the back, painted in streaks of blood, manifest number 1, the first freight. Now, every road bleeds into another. The highways don't have names anymore, just feelings. You ever drive a stretch of I-70 and suddenly feel like you're remembering something that hasn't happened yet? That's one of mine, one of the routes. And every time I take one, I feel a little lighter, a little less like Johnny Miller, trucker from Ohio, and a little more like something else, something driven. I got a delivery last night. No address, just coordinates again, somewhere in Montana, where the stars don't move and the air smells like sulfur and static. The clipboard says Manifest 25, final drop. But I know it's a lie. There is no final drop. Not really, because the road never ends. It loops, twists, shifts, it remembers. It builds itself out of what we forget. And the only way to pay your toll is to keep going. So I drive. I drive through the cracks in the world where the pavement doesn't hold, where the mirrors hum and the trailer groans like something alive, where time slips and ghosts wave and the headlights show you things you should never see. I am not a man anymore. I am a rig. I am a route. I am a story drivers tell each other when the night gets too long. Next time you're on the road late at night and a semi passes you going 90 in a fog that shouldn't be there, don't try to follow. Don't flash your lights. Don't call out on the CB. Just let it pass. Because if you look too long, you might see your own name on the trailer. And once you're on the manifest, there's no getting off. Manifest number 25, delivered. Manifest number 26, pending.